And that's why I always bring a change of clothes on an airplane.
I love that, Andrew. That's a good story. Hopefully, everybody caught that and the reasoning behind that. So, Andrew, tell me, what's your go-to tactic for building strong, long-lasting client relationships, like your ultimate secret weapon?
You know, my ultimate secret weapon, Alana, is actually a television program that you're way too young to know. It was called Columbo. And I'd like your listeners to Google that. Columbo was a detective and he would dress in a frumpled suit. And for the entire hour-long program, he would just ask people questions. He would ask and ask and ask. And in the very last scene, he put everyone in a room and say, here's the killer, because, and he'd tie it all together. And in my opinion, Columbo was the best salesperson that I've ever met. What Columbo did was discovery through that entire discussion. All he did was discover. He learned and he learned and he learned. So if I had a secret weapon in my, I'd say, blessed career, because I've had some phenomenal opportunities, I would say listening is more important than speaking. We have two ears, one mouth. Empathy and trying to truly understand who you're speaking to and what's important to them. And speaking less 40% of the time, 20% of the time, that will lead you to the ultimate secret weapon, which is alignment and solving for pain. And it served me in executive boardrooms. It served me with tying organizations together. It's served me everywhere.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. They're giving you all the answers. Like they're giving you all the answers of what you're looking for, what are their pain points. Like if you just stop and listen, they're telling you the secrets, and then you need to figure out from there how to solve their pain points.
Alana, do you know how few people do that? It's
I
amazing.
agree.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. So that's why I'd call it a secret weapon. Well,
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
and I lift weights a little bit. So
That too. That can help. What's the best piece of sales advice you've received that shaped your philosophy, and who did it come from?
when I was in my last years as an individual contributor, I worked for an organization called TELUS, which is a telecommunications company in Western Canada. I remember I had a target of 7 million, and that year I sold $55 million against that $7 million target. So I was sort of cocky and proud. And I remember doing a funnel review with my boss. His name was Kevin White. And I said, thinking that I knew everything in the world because I was so successful, I said, I believe this about an account. And he said, frankly, Andrew, I don't care what you believe. I care what your customer believes. And that's haunted me ever since that day, which was probably before most people listening were born. And the reason is it taught me that people don't buy anything because they like the person they're speaking to. They do buy from people, but people part with their company's money, their treasure, because they're solving a pain. And if we're not solving a business problem, then we've lost what I call the CPOV. I hate acronyms, Alana, but CPOV is one that stuck with me, customer's point of view. Their point of view is the only thing that matters. Back to the first question. If we're not listening and figuring out what they want to accomplish, and let me tell you about another thing I believe. Do you know what a bullseye looks like on an archery target or shooting target, concentric circles?
Absolutely.
Picture that, and on the outside, there's an environment. In the middle circle, I'd call that the organization, and in the center circle, there's an individual or a person. They are dealing with all three of those circles in every response they give you. So the real great advice I got was understand that person, the organization, and the environment, and validate your information. Ask them a question. If you're wide and deep inside an account when you're in a pursuit, validate that information with other people. Understand where their motivation is and empathize. So the toughest advice is sometimes the best advice. And I was Kevin White, God bless him. He's a gazillionaire and he has houses all over the world now. And it doesn't surprise me because he's smart. But isn't it interesting? We never liked the best coaches we ever had until after we realized what they taught us. Otherwise, I just thought he was being mean to me.
Right, but he was pushing you in the right direction, teaching you lessons, and it sounds like pushing you out of your comfort zone, making you and challenging your thinking, which can seem like, oh, I don't like that, but really that's the way to grow.
100%. And I hope all of us find coaches that do that, that push you to where you don't want to be, because inevitably that's our weaknesses.
That's right. That's right. What's the best investment that a salesperson can make?
I'd like to give you two answers. One is always be learning. If you think about what we use every day today, last year it was an unfathomable dream. And what we're going to be doing to transact, to communicate, to record a podcast next year is completely different than this year. So always be learning. If you're static, if you think you know, the reality is you don't. In order to be empathetic, you have to be current. And AI is going to help with that, but you even have to understand the AI and the agents and the mechanisms and how they fit together. But the number one thing that a salesperson can invest in is preparation. And I know this sounds glib, but it's unbelievable to me when I've been mentoring executives in billion-dollar companies, how often they prepare 10% of what they should have prepared, and they have uncomfortable conversations in either very important client meetings or executive or boardroom discussions. Preparation is unbelievable. Just continue to prepare for every possible outcome. Then you can relax and you can be yourself, and you can be that person that brought you to this place in life. And it's truly how to accelerate. I think preparation is the most underrated and underused tool in a sales person or sales leader's toolbox.
Yeah, it's similar, like knowledge is power. The more you know, the more you're prepared, you can answer those questions and give great answers to your clients for their questions. And you can also know what you don't know, which is just as important. Like if you don't know, it's okay that you don't know, but at least you have an idea of what you don't know and the things that you need further clarification and all of that. So it's in a nutshell, being prepared.
Yeah.
What do you think is one thing that a salesperson should stop doing immediately?
Stop selling. Stop selling. No one wants to buy anything. No one wants, even though I might be accused as that guy who buys everything. My wife doesn't let me speak to any salesman because I'll come home with a new truck. They say a salesperson is always the best person to sell to. But having said that, stop selling and start figuring out what business problem you're solving. And be real. If you don't have a solution to the business problem they have, don't think your product or service is that good that they're going to want to buy it because it's cool. The reality is you have to understand your client. You have to understand where they are in that continuum of experiences. Are they in pain or status quo, or what's going on with your customer? And so I'd say stop selling and start discovering.
Yeah. Stop selling is by far, it's an answer that's come up multiple times on this podcast as I talk to sales professionals. And I've taken it to myself. It's just such great advice. Like, stop selling. Nobody wants to hear the BS. Like, nobody wants some type of, all these sales tactics. Be authentic, be prepared, have a great product, be knowledgeable and create authentic relationships. Like, stop selling, trying to sell. I think that's great.
Do you know who's phenomenal at that? Just sorry for a quick aside, but your partner, Ryan, is someone who can build a relationship faster than anyone I've met and can ask discovery questions so subtly and with humor and a number of different mechanisms. It's unbelievable how he can get people to open up. And he's probably a phenomenal salesman, but I've never felt like he's selling anything to me. Yet here I am as a partner of your organization because of his not selling.
Yeah, well, he's not selling, right? Like we've got a great product. We're, knowledgeable about what we do. We do the right thing. We have great values, and I think that's it. It's not really a sales, and he is great at talking to people and opening up and getting information out of, kind of pulling out details. But I don't. I agree with you. It's selling, but it's not selling, and it's genuine. Like he also genuinely cares and wants to know about people just because that's who he is as a person.
Yeah, and he's authentic. He's
Yes.
aligned with his beliefs. He's congruent. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's enough about Ryan. And
Enough about Ryan. What's one piece of advice you wish you'd known earlier in your sales career, and how can aspiring salespeople apply that today?
I hope this doesn't sound arbitrary, but I'm going to give you an answer. It's a bit silly, but if I want things other people don't have, I need to be willing to do things other people aren't willing to do. And I'm going to give you a very personal example. I was a fat kid from a tiny little city in British Columbia, Canada, and it was a terrible little city. And I realized as I went through an athletic career that I didn't have to perform on a certain day to win a track meet or to win a ski race. I had to prepare differently. I had to train differently. And I realized in order for me that might not have the talent, I had to outwork everyone around me. And I can't tell you how many times I hear that, but then I look at how that person behaves, their activities, and they're not really living what they believe. I've made it from that little dirt track in that town to run for Canada. I ski raced internationally. I done some things that I had no right doing, Alana, but I just simply worked my way into it. And I'd say the same with my career. Clearly, I'm not intelligent enough to have had the roles that I have, but I'd like to think that I outworked everyone that I competed with to get those roles. And I believe if you want things that other people don't have, you've got to be willing to do the work that other people aren't willing to do. It sounded a bit preachy, but
Yeah.
the second thing that I think was really good advice that came from my father, which is have fun, like let go, have fun, be your authentic self. And that's going to pave a lot of roads that could be rocky.
Yeah. And I think that goes so far. Just being authentic, being yourself, have fun, enjoy the steps on the way. It's not just don't only enjoy when you reach your goal, but enjoying kind of the journey it's important to recognize that, because otherwise you're really never going to be happy because there's always another goal.
Doug Merritt, who was the CEO of Splunk and is now CEO of another company, recommended a book to me that I'd recommend to you and your listeners called Chop Wood, Carry Water. The book is called Chop Wood, Carry Water. And really that's part of the fundamental theme of the book. True fulfillment isn't going to come from the outcomes. It's not going to come from winning the archery competition. It's going to come from embracing the process. I loved your language, and there's a book that supports that. It reads like a children's book. It's super quick, and everyone I've recommended it to has absolutely loved it. So there's a book for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out. Who do you look up to?
Obviously, my father, even though he's shorter than me, so I kind of look down on him, and he's in his 90s now. But my father spoke very little, which is hilarious when you think about how much I speak. He spoke very little, but when he spoke, everyone listened. He could just start a sentence and the room would go quiet because everyone wanted to hear what he said. I call that executive speak. He wouldn't speak till he knew what he was going to say. And to me, that's a certain kind of executive presence. And even though he was an executive at a big company, he carried it. You could feel the oxygen change in the room when he walked in. So my father, but I also really aspire and are inspired by people who think differently. I'll give you a couple of examples. Chris Voss wrote a book, Never Split the Difference. And it really is about selling, but the theory was he was an FBI hostage negotiator, and he wasn't able to say, okay, you can kill 4 and I'll take the other 4. It just wasn't an option, so he couldn't split that. Really interesting book. Michael Easter wrote a book called The Comfort Crisis. I love that book because it's really about the human condition and pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone, just like you referenced earlier. I like sort of fun books, like Tim Kennedy's books. So Tim Kennedy would be another person I look up to because of what he's accomplished and how far he pushed the human condition to accomplish all the things that he accomplished. I aspire to be that. Jocko Willink had the courage to create a new framework for leadership. And I loved that. In his first book, Extreme Ownership, he talked about if you want to build a team and you want to accomplish great things, then everyone has to own that mission. And I loved that. And then, of course, I love people who think differently, like Malcolm Gladwell and Stephen Levitt and Freakonomics, right? It's look at the bigger picture. Sometimes we don't really understand what we're looking at. Seek the bigger picture. And again, it's the theme of this whole conversation. Seek to understand. So I am attracted to people who live what they believe, and I'm attracted to people who have passion, like yourself, like your partner Ryan. That's a magnetism. So those are people I look up to. And it's not just people who've written books or done fantastic things. It's my mother lives what she believes, and she doesn't vary from it. She's disciplined, and I have so much respect for that. So those are people I look up to.
Yeah, that's great. And I've got a whole new reading list coming up. Some of them I've heard of and read, some of them I haven't. So I'm excited to get those on my list. So Andrew, tell us who you are, where people can find you, what you do, and about yourself.
My name is Andrew Devlin. I could prove it. It's in the bottom of the screen on my left-hand side. I can be found at a website called andrewdevlin.co, again, because I couldn't afford the M. I am a sales executive who spent 30 years building teams in SaaS companies and had phenomenal success. I've seen hyper growth. I've seen recessions and change. And I ventured out in the last year as a fractional VP of sales, powered by the sales acceleration methodology and intellectual property, which I'm really loving. And that's me and how to find me. So LinkedIn, Andrew Devlin. I'm the unhandsome one with the beard, and andrewdevlin.co is my website.
Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate you coming on and all of your fantastic advice. Appreciate it.